Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the fairgrounds, which remain an emotional issue for a lot of people. We have with us Duane Dominy, former Metro Councilman, Jim Roberts, attorney. Both are representing Save Our Fairgrounds. Is that right?
Yes.
So let's go to the phones here. Let's go to Ann. Hello, Ann.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
You know, these rich northern people's coming down here building all this stuff, and we don't have no place to go, and they wonder why these people stay in jail. This young generation ain't got nothing to do. And yet they gonna take the fairground away from us? No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna vote for that. I think it's awful. And I'm 82 years old, and my kids love going out there. They went every Sunday to the park. I mean, to the kids' park out there. And why don't they put that back out there?
All right, Ann, thank you very much. Now, Ann says she's not going to vote for it. We're past that.
Well, we don't have a vote right now unless they want to change the charter. But the charter is pretty clear right now, and I took an oath when I was a council member to uphold the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, the Constitution of the United States, and I applied the Metro Charter. Now, the incoming council members actually have to take an oath to uphold the Metro Charter. I applied that just because that's my principle, but the charter is what it is. If you don't like it, I'm willing to work with people to help them craft an amendment, go through the process of amending it. The voters get to vote on that.
And the bottom line, the charter, it was strengthened, the language in there was strengthened in 2011 when this went for a countywide vote.
That's right.
And give us in 2 sentences, the really abbreviated version, what did that do? Tell us that.
Specifically, the 2011 referendum, which is not what they're violating right now, it protects the existing uses that were in place in December 31st of 2010, including the expo, the flea market events, automobile racing, and the fair.
Okay. And so they would say that's not being impacted.
They say all those protected uses are going to stay, but when you ask them how they're going to operate, because the space that would be used for the fair example is being used up by new buildings or soccer practice fields and dog park.
And you think eventually this stadium, this mixed use goes in, eventually it destroys what's there now?
It has to. I mean, the state fair already needs 100% of the parking, and they're getting ready to lose 20% out there. The flea market needs 100% of the parking. They're going to lose 20% of the parking out there. There's nothing about this design that's designed to keep the existing uses. It is designed to destroy the existing, to undermine them, to everything from the design. They built some new expo buildings out there, but they're not built in a way that's going to be conducive to the flea market. It's to drive off vendors. They raise the price. It's to be odd. At the same time that they're forcing the vendors to move into an inadequate building, they're also raising rates. They're also adding restrictions on what you can do and can't do. They're making it harder for the vendors. Same thing with the state fair. They're trying to drive the state fair off the property. It's all part of really honestly a plan. You're going to, if this goes forward like they want it to, in 2 or 3 years, the flea market won't be what it used to be. And part of that is the MLS will control the schedule. I guess somebody should talk about it. MLS announces in January of every year what the schedule for the soccer games are going to be for the next year. They control the entire property. And so if they pick a schedule that overlaps an already event, then that event has to cancel. People who hold events do them years in advance. If you're going to do a gun show, if you're going to do a car parts show or anything, you have to schedule those things years in advance. And MLS is going to come in January of every year and destroy the schedules for everyone else. They're not going to get away with it because we're going to sue them. But
you're going to sue them over that. I'll ask this, and then I'm going to start taking calls, I promise. I'm taking a couple. And I may have even asked this, but there are people that love racing, that love the flea market, and that love soccer. Is there any way we can all make this work? Is there any way we could all just make this happen out there?
The simplest way would be put the soccer stadium in a place that's appropriate, that is not protected by the city charter. That's the simplest
there's no way
solution
to put it out.
If we put a soccer stadium on the fairgrounds property, the mixed-use development cannot exist under the existing charter.
And that's a good point. If the mixed use would go away, and that's just a giveaway, that's just an absolute giveaway. If it would just disappear, we could keep that parking. Could the stadium coexist? Absolutely.
Yep.
If the revenue from the stadium, the parking revenue, the concessions revenue, all the revenue that comes from that event went through to the Fair Board like it does for every other event, then it would work. But MLS is not going to do that. They've got to extract a lot of money out of this town to make it work. They're not going to raise their rent from $10 a year 1 penny. And I might note that other vendors, the flea markets, the Speedway, they all have to pay rent. You know, the Speedway pays 20,000 times the rent that the Sports Authority is paying for where the stadium's going to be. Why? The Speedway is a protected charter event. It's got a history in Nashville. Many of the famous racers started in Nashville, and they pay 20,000 times the amount of rent than a rich MLS professional soccer pays. Why is that? Well, because they're trying to destroy the fairgrounds.
To be blunt,
MLS will never agree to this, so they'll have to move.
To be blunt,
go ahead.
There's something morally wrong when a billionaire pays less for 10 acres than a vendor at a flea market pays for a single parking space booth.
Okay, let's go to Mookie now on line 3. Hello, Mookie.
Yes, this is Mookie from Hermitage. I just want to say that I appreciate the research and the time you guys are spending, to protect the fairgrounds, the people that live by those areas and such, and your staff and what you're doing. I appreciate the information you're sharing. But could I assume that this is a clear and classic case of deep pockets? They're violating the charter and the judicial side of the law, but they feel like there's not enough people and not enough money on your side of the aisle that will be able to wait them out, and that they'll ultimately not have to, deal with the charter, because some type of compromise will be made because there's not as many people affected. And I just wondered if you agree with that and what your recourse is going to be if that time comes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. What do you say?
Well, he's absolutely right. Well, the resources lined up against this are amazing. I mean, every time we would go into court, Metro Legal, my government would have 3 lawyers against me. There would be 3 or 4 lawyers representing the financial interests that are working against Metro sitting in the audience, and there was this little old me on the other side. I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for the fight. I think we're going to win, and despite the disadvantage and resources they have, because we're right. What they're doing is wrong, and we're going to continue to fight them. We're going to fight them in this lawsuit. We're going to have the charter enforced. If I have to go to the Supreme Court, we're going to make sure the charter is enforced, and it's going to, in a court of law, prove they cannot do these things. They may go ahead and do it. They start building the stadium tomorrow if they want to, but they're going to do it in violation of the charter. They're going to do it with construction agreements that are illegal, and we're going to prove that in court. And then when MLS gets here, they run us over, they just stomp all over us, and they announce a schedule in January that interferes with all the other events that are scheduled, we're going to sue them every single year. And they're going to do what we want them to do. If they force themselves onto that property, then they're going to comply with the rules, or they're going to be dragged into litigation every single year. That's my promise.
Okay. You want to add? Okay. All right. We have to take a break. Lucy and Ezra and others, hold on. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.